Chapter 21, Staying Overnight. When she woke up on the second day, Yuhuan felt an extra weight around her waist than usual. It was Gao Yan's hand, stretched out on the outside of the blanket, resting on top of her in an embracing position. Gao Yan was lying on his side, his face facing her, his other hand curved and pillowed under his face, his brow peacefully closed. Fragments of last night flashed through Yuhuan's mind, the boisterous crowd, the alcohol and dizziness, the lips pressed against each other, the burning caresses, the intertwined breaths. Last night she was conscious, yet impulsive. She remembered that she had kissed him, and she remembered that she had invited him to stay. Neither had stayed over at the other's house since the date. In the beginning, the dates were in hotels, and there was no question of a sleepover. Later, a hotel was exposed to be equipped with hidden cameras. Yuhuan was a little worried. Gao Yan proposed that since the two are so familiar with each other, why don't they stay at each other's homes? The first time, it was at Gao Yan's house. Yuhuan is very tired, but still dragged the tired body to put on the clothes with him to say goodbye. Gao Yan was a bit surprised, and Yuhuan explained that she had a job early the next morning, a fact. But because of the two of them, it was not easy for her to get out of the house. Although it was true, she didn't explain it very specifically because of their relationship. Gao Yan looked at her. I feel like an asshole for letting you go in the middle of the night, so let's meet at your place next time. After that, it was basically him coming to her. The advantage of an appointment at your own home is that it saves makeup removal, and driving back and forth. Yuhuan is naturally happy. The first 2 times Gao Yan came, it was a weekday. He stayed only briefly after he was done and then left. Yuhuan had to go to work the next day, and in order to conserve her energy, she didn't keep him. Later on, when she wanted to talk again, she was a bit embarrassed instead. She actually didn't mind having another person on her pillow. She even enjoyed his embrace. But the only people who have a need for such intimate gestures as kissing and hugging seem to be women, and men often seem to only need sex itself. Yuhuan couldn't get Gao Yan's thoughts and didn't mention it again. But yesterday, egged on by alcohol, she still seemed to be unable to resist hooking his fingers as he rustled his clothes. It's late, or we can leave tomorrow. Looks like the wine has quite an aftertaste. She heard him say so. Then he stripped off the clothes he'd just put on, got under the covers, and lay down against her. When had he circled her in his arms? Or, when did she shrink into his arms? Through the not-so-bright light, Yuhuan saw that his bare shoulder still had her teeth marks from yesterday. There are still band-aids at home, but I'm afraid one won't cover it, and a row of them would be too ugly. Yuhuan carefully touched it up and gestured. In the faint light, Gao Yan slowly opened his eyes. What are you looking at? Nothing. Yuhuan suddenly met his eyes and instantly retracted her hand. They were face to face, and they could even hear each other breathing. She turned around and went to look at her cell phone in a disguised manner. Gao Yan also felt out the cell phone under his pillow. It's only 9 o'clock. Do you have work today? No. Yuhuan half-heartedly asked again, do you? There is. But Gao Yan said, suddenly turning around and reaching out to hug her again, not too urgent. He put the cell phone back to one side, his lips pressed against the back of her neck and kissed. The fine, broken kisses with warm breath couldn't help but fall on her neck. Yuhuan turned away from Gao Yan's arms, her hand pressed up against his chest to caress his firm pecs. There were still traces left by her fingernails on there, but she was unable to kiss him again like she did yesterday regardless. Her gaze lingered on his lips. He sensed it and lowered his head, pressing his lips to hers, pecking lightly as he pulled her hands up to wrap around his waist. After slowing down, the two of them collapsed onto the pillows. What do you want to eat for breakfast? Yuhuan felt her stomach already protesting and took out her cell phone in preparation for ordering takeout. Can I have Xinyelin's treatment? Gao Yan turned his head sideways. ? I want to eat what you made. This seems a bit foul. Yuhuan turned her head sideways. She didn't answer, only sat up and started to put on her clothes. With a rustling sound, Gao Yan watched as she used her less coordinated body with a hangover to put on her pajama pants a few times before she was able to put them on. Forget it, let's not embarrass her. Gao Yan grabbed his cell phone and tapped on his takeout screen. Coldly, Yu Huan, who had walked to the bedroom door, turned to him and asked, "Do you eat cooked or loose eggs in an omelette?" Chapter 22 Business Trip. When Yu Huan went to the law firm on Monday, her entire body was glowing and radiant. Even when she washed the cups, a smile was unconsciously hanging on her face. "Why so happy?" Amy teased, "Going on a date over the weekend?" "What date?" Yu Huan instantly denied, "It's not like you don't know my situation." The tone of her voice, however, was unconsciously lower than usual because of her weakness. "You're not right." Amy got even more worked up. "You're overthinking it," Yu Huan retorted, taking the coffee and fleeing out of the pantry in a hurry. Chapter 21. Actually, she really didn't go on a date over the weekend. That morning, Gao Yan had finished breakfast at her house and didn't stay long before leaving because he had something else to do. Her weekend was the same as the usual weekends when she was rarely free: cleaning, gym carding, supermarket shopping for daily necessities and fruits, reading books. To say that there was really any difference, it was probably that she texted with Gao Yan a bit more than before. After Gao Yan left her house that day, he counterintuitively reported that he had arrived home and sent her a video of him accompanying a couple of his bosses on a sea fishing trip in the afternoon. He said he had been airborne all afternoon. Yu Huan could see that he was really bored, and could also see that he really couldn't leave, so she chatted with him on WeChat. Then, in the past 2 days, they had both kinda messaged each other. Is it that obvious? After Yu Huan returned to the office with her coffee, she couldn't help but open the front camera of her cell phone. Xin Yilan comes knocking on the door. "Lawyer Yu, you have acne too?" Yu Huan hurriedly put down her cell phone for a while before reacting to the word also and stared at Xin Yilan. "You have acne?" "Uh-huh." Xin Yilan nodded. "I went back after drinking that day, and a pimple popped up on my forehead the next day. It's a big one," he said, lifting the bangs in front of his forehead to show Yu Huan, and thought of another thing. "Right, did Uncle drop you off at home that day?" Yu Huan, "Sent." "That's good." Xin Yilan, "But I remember you seemed to live closer, right? He clearly should have sent you first." We have some business to talk about." "Oh." Xin Yilan answered. He was drunk and couldn't remember anything. He was so put off by Yu Huan, only after a long time did he remember. The real purpose of his coming to find Yu Huan, right? The case of Rona Industries is also closed. What's our task this week? He had come to look for Yu Huan to arrange the new week's work assignment for him. Yu Huan opened the new week's work schedule, and simply arranged some work for him. After finishing, she said, "I have to go on a business trip on Wednesday, and I guess I can only come back on the weekend. I won't be here for a few days. You can consult other lawyers if you encounter any problems. If you're too idle and feel bored, you can also go to Reese, and let him arrange some additional work for you." "You're traveling?" Xin Yilan put his head in front of Yu Huan's computer. "Traveling for what?" "One of the law firm's permanent legal advisor units has a project negotiation that requires our cooperation." Yu Huan roughly explained the situation. Xin Yilan was a bit puzzled after listening. This unit's partner has clearly defaulted on the contract. They cancelled the contract and asked for liquidated damages is not enough, but also negotiation off? But their business plan will be put into production next year, although the lawsuit will win, but the construction period is bound to be delayed. If they can't be put into production next year, the investment promotion work they have done will be all for nothing. Yu Huan explained, "Once the entire plan is disrupted, the loss is much higher than the compensation that can be obtained from a lawsuit." "Oh." Xin Yilan now understood. "Then, can I participate?" Yu Huan, "I'll be done by Tuesday with all this work you've given me. Why don't you take me with you on your business trip?" Xin Yilan, "You guys have a meeting, a negotiation. I'll just stand silently by the side, promise not to add to the chaos," he said, turning his head to look at her blearily. "This?" Yu Huan, you're eager to go? Uh-huh. Shen Yilin nodded frantically. Yu Huan met his expectant gaze and pondered for a split second. All right, I'll ask Fred. It wasn't unprecedented for an intern to follow a business trip. However, how could one learn to ask Fred? Given Shen Yilin's identity, in addition to Fred, Yu Huan also learned that there was another person. Wednesday I'm going on a business trip out of town. Yilin, I said I wanted to go together. In the evening, Yu Huan talked to Gao Yan about it. Take Yilin to go out of town on business? Gao Yan. Well, just for about 3 days. Yu Huan briefly said what happened. Again, he asked to go? Gao Yan, aren't you indulging him a little too much? Have I? Yu Huan. She couldn't help but think of Shen Yilin's eyes again. For some reason, every time she was looked at expectantly with his wet eyes, she just couldn't say no. Yu Huan and Shen Yilin left on Wednesday afternoon, and the plane arrived at their destination in less than 2 hours. The two of them went to the hotel and settled in, and there was still some time before the agreed meal time. The hotel arranged by the client's organization was a Chinese-style hotel, built with a lot of character, whether it was the natural light patio, or the courtyard with green plants and lotus ponds complementing each other. Yu Huan couldn't help but take a few photos, wanting to send them to Gao Yan, but somewhat hesitant. Just in time, the other party sent a message. Are we there yet? I'm here. Yu Huan replied in almost a second, and sent the photos in the meantime. You also like this style? The other side quickly replied, then the next time we all rest, let's go to Amman. Amman, ah, that legendary Hermes of hotels? Good, Yu Huan returned. Obviously just traveling on business, and already looking forward to going back. Chapter 23. Calm down. In the evening, the negotiators of the client's enterprise and Yu Huan and their joints had a meeting, sorted out the core issues of this negotiation, and clarified the bottom line terms of the negotiation and special precautions to be taken. The next day's negotiation, Shen Yilin, in order not to drag his feet, specially groomed himself, suit and tie, quite decent. Is that bow tie? How to see how awkward. What kind of knot did you tie? Yu Huan asked him. I don't know, found on the internet. Shen Yilin, it seems to be called a cross knot? You remembered it wrong. The corner of Yu Huan's mouth twitched. Is it? Shen Yilin looked down for a while, also felt that it was wrong, and untied the tie to retie it. He tugs and pulls, but again, he always seems to be missing the point, and Yu Huan can't look away, walks over to him and takes the tie in his hand. Yu Huan's fingers held the tie folded around, and soon tied a standard beautiful knot. This process, Shen Yilin looked down, trying to remember, but feel overly complex a little, and finally can only look at the tie, giggle, and incidentally took a picture and sent a circle of friends. Chapter 22. The initial negotiations on the first day went well. After the negotiations, Yu Huan took Shen Yilin back to the hotel and taught him to organize the minutes of the meeting. Shen Yilin was quite fast in this regard, and in no time at all, he had made the report according to Yu Huan's requirements, and started replying to the comments from his circle of friends about the photos sent out in the morning. His WeChat was synchronized with his computer, making it easier to type. He replied to the circle of friends for a while, opened the WeChat dialog box for a private chat for a while, and even clicked on a video to show the people on the other side of the camera what his professional outfit looked like. Yu Huan came back from the balcony after answering the phone, and happened to catch a glimpse of the woman on the computer screen about the same age as her, very good-looking, and inexplicably a bit familiar. Lawyer Yu, you're back. When Shen Yilin saw Yu Huan, he hurriedly said to the person on the other side of the camera, Sister Fei Fei, I won't talk to you anymore, I should work. Then let's talk next time. The person on the other end of the phone smiled and said goodbye. That voice, Yu Huan also felt a bit familiar when she heard it. Your friend? When Shen Yilin hung up the video, she asked, wondering if she had met her somewhere. You mean Sister Fei Fei? Shen Yilin switched the interface back to the minutes. Sort of a friend, but more accurately, she's my uncle's ex-girlfriend. The voice he muttered wasn't too loud. However, Yuhuan instantly remembered that the beautiful woman in the video just now was the very woman she had unintentionally bumped into when she went to Lusheng one time and mentioned breaking up with Gao Yan. During dinner, Yuhuan brushed to Shen Yilan's circle of friends. There was no text, just a selfie of him in professional clothes. Yuhuan clicked a like in front of Shen Yilan, and then spoke in a particularly offhand tone. The beautiful woman who just videoed with you, you said it was your uncle's ex-girlfriend? Uh-huh. Shen Yilan, although they broke up, but Sister Fei Fei is quite nice, we still keep in touch. Oh. Yuhuan nodded his head and continued as if gossiping. Your uncle's ex-girlfriend is quite pretty, looks quite compatible with him. How did they break up? I don't know. Shen Yilan shook his head. It is said that uncle was dumped that, but then grandmother wanted to set them back together. Uncle does not seem to be very active. Your grandmother set them up to get back together? Yuhuan's eyes sank. So, all have met the parents? How to say it, Sister Fei Fei is a doctor. It was grandma who knew her first and then introduced her to uncle. I don't know if it counts as having met the parents. Anyway, everyone in the family, except grandpa, has met her. Shen Yilan recalled, suddenly sighed. In fact, Fei Fei's sister person really quite good, grandmother before she left, but also recited the hope that she and uncle can get back together, but never waited, to say also quite regrettable. Oh. Yuhuan lowered her eyes, followed and agreed, is quite regrettable. But that tone of voice, I heard myself feel that the words do not mean what they say. After dinner, Yuhuan returned to her room. Yuhuan finished her work, and began to think of Shen Yilan's sister Fei Fei in her mind. Although she only caught a few glimpses, the other party was really pretty. Fair skin, delicate features, will unconsciously raise his chin slightly when he speaks, proud but frank, as if the kind of child from childhood to be spoiled to a large child. There is a kind of oneself enough to be worthy of all the best things in the world, self-confidence. Then I don't know so, Yuhuan thought of the same beautiful but slightly introverted Sun Lian Shiyun, thought of high school, entrusted himself to write a love letter to the transfer school female classmates. Really to say, they in addition to look pretty, this commonality, personality can be said to be very different. Gao Yan, what type does he really like? This was something that Gao Yan was afraid that he wouldn't give her an answer. Just like before, whether she asked him implicitly if he still remembered his high school classmates or bluntly asked him how he pursued Lian Shiyun. Gao Banquet just lightly brought over a look of unwillingness to mention more. Sometimes Yuhuan couldn't help but wonder if she would appear in his mouth so lightly in the future, or perhaps, she didn't even have the qualifications to appear in his mouth, because no one knew their secret at all, and no one would ask about it. The ambiguity of the past few days made her mistakenly think that she and Gao Yan had a different relationship. But when she thought about it, he hadn't said anything, hadn't promised anything. He was still a fuck buddy with her, and he accompanied her to do more intimate things, but he didn't give her that unique title. She still had no business pursuing his past, no business connecting with him in an honorable way. A thought of that. It was as if a corner of the heart had been twisted up, giving birth to a sour, dull pain. When Gao Yan sent a message asking about the negotiations during the day, Yuhuan lay on the bed and actually did not want to reply at all. Chapter 24, Anomalies. Yuhuan is a bit abnormal. Obviously just traveled when still good, arrived at the hotel to him to share the photo, the night before the negotiation, and he also chatting, these 2 days but like a different person, reply to his message speed but more and more slow, not timely at the same time, the content has become more and more concise and perfunctory. Gao Yan looked at his recent conversations with Yuhuan. The first message was yesterday after dinner, when he asked her about the negotiation situation, and the other party replied after a long interval with a sentence that it was okay. Then she said that she was tired and needed to go to bed early, asking him to rest early as well. The second one was today at noon, when he shared his lunch and asked if she had eaten it, to which she replied succinctly, yes, and nothing more. The third is even more outrageous. In the evening, he sent a video of himself working out, 2 hours have passed, the other party did not reply at all. Eat? It's already past the hour. Shower? Half an hour was enough. Still busy working? Then why did Shen Yilan's friend circle update again just now? Gao Yan looked at the screen and couldn't think of a reasonable cause, so he withdrew and dialed Shen Yilan. Hello, uncle? Shen Yilan received the call and was obviously a bit stunned. Why did you remember to call me? This was said. Can't I care about you? Gao Yan raised his eyebrows. Is work still going well? Not too smooth. Shen Yilan, there were some new disputes during the negotiation process. We might have to go back 2 days late. Chapter 23. Tricky? As if he had instantly found the crux, Gao Yan asked. In the next second, Shen Yilan denied, not really. Lawyer, you said that bargaining is their business, we just need to provide advice on issues involving the legal part. He added. And why was that? Gao Yan's just stretched brows furrowed again. You didn't cause any trouble for Lawyer you, did you? No. Today Lawyer you even complimented me on a job well done. Then. Are you still used to eating and living over there? Gao Yan asked again. Huh? Shen Yilan. This question puzzled him more than receiving the call itself. One must know that this was only a business trip for him, only a few days or so. And back then when he was studying far away in the United States, Gao Yan hadn't cared at all about his food and accommodation. The food over here is alright, the flavors are similar to ours, and the hotel environment is also good. Shen Yilan returned, hesitated and asked, Uncle, what's wrong with you? Will not be like grandma suddenly checked out what terminal disease, and then suddenly noticed that you can not just focus on work, should care more about the family. You had a physical recently? He spoke carefully. I'm fine. Gao Yan probably guessed his abnormal brain circuits. It's fine, go to bed early, hang up. A phone call didn't yield any useful information, except for one, Yu Huan's business trip for them had been extended. But this, Yu Huan did not mention with him. Was he encountering something else that was bothering him? Gao Yan couldn't guess and decided to call Yu Huan. Yu Huan lay on her bed and watched the video sent by Gao Yan. In the evening, people from the client's organization pulled her and Shen Yilan together for dinner. She couldn't push the other party's passionate persuasion, so she had no choice but to drink some wine. I don't know if it's the effect of alcohol, or there are always those days of the month when people are extra restless. She lay on her bed for a long time without any sleepiness, so she clicked on the video that Gao Yan had sent her. The video looks like a coach's point of view. Gao Yan is sitting on a bench, doing dumbbell push-ups. The muscle lines of his arms were clear and full without losing their beauty. I don't know how many sets of training it was, but his sweat-soaked clothes were hanging on his body, clearly outlining the shoulder muscles that worked together with his arms, as well as his full pectoral muscles. Beads of sweat slid from his dense hair to his temples, and then down the side of his neck, matching the gasping breaths, one breath in and one breath out, allowing her to feel his bursting hormones even through the screen. For the first time, Yu Huan realized that the original desire could be materialized. It's the tight corners of his lips, it's his bulging muscles, it's the low gasp that spills out of his clenched teeth, it's his agitated sweat glands, the hot touch of his skin. Thinking of the countless nights of old spent tangled up with that man. Just then the phone rang. Chapter 25, The Test. Hello. Yu Huan's fingertips crossed the screen, and the green call indicator lit up. A familiar voice with a bit of huskiness resounded on the other end of the phone. What are you doing? The cliched beginning. Some say the subtext of this sentence is, miss you. But it's also possible, the speaker is just simply too lazy to think of a novel way to open the conversation. Just came back from accompanying the people from the consultants unit to dinner. Yu Huan, sorry, I was a bit busy this afternoon and didn't notice the message. Sorry? Yu Huan's businesslike tone made Gao Yan freeze for a while before continuing. Are you still busy now? No. Then stay with me for a while. Talk about what? Want to hear your voice, say anything. The voice that came through the microphone was not the least bit compromised after more than 1,000 kilometers. It was still low and sexy. Yuan could even imagine Gao Yan's appearance on the other end of the phone. His expression didn't change much, but his eyes had a hidden gentleness, as gentle as every time they lingered. The room was quiet, the breeze blew in from outside, carrying some kind of unknown floral fragrance. In the still air, Yuan realized that she actually missed his voice. In an instant, she was no longer able to use going to sleep, too tired or any other reason to put him off hanging up the phone. Gao Yan. She suddenly called his name, putting her cell phone on the bedside and turning it on empty, her body changing positions under the covers. Hearing a low answer on the other end, she asked again, "Is the weather okay on your end?" "It's okay, what about your side?" "It's okay too, I just might not be able to get back for the weekend." "Well, I heard from Yilin." "What about you?" "What about the weekend?" "Eating with my collaborators and going to a forum." The two just chatted. It was all trivial things, but the sexy voice of Gao Yan reciting it made Yuan feel as if she was in a delicate music. On the other end of the phone, every syllable of Gao Yan's voice was clearly picked up by her tympanic membrane, but gradually, before her brain could piece them together into complete sentences, they leaked out again from somewhere else. Yuan sank back into the fluffy bed, responding slower and slower, thinking longer and longer. "Sleepy?" Gao Yan sensed the opposite side's slowed down speed of reply, and just wanted to ask, when coldly, he heard an unrepressed, short, soft murmur slip out from there. He asked, "Miss me?" "Did you?" It should have been a flirtation. Because it trailed off with a faintly drawn-out end, like the ambiguous murmur of some special moment. But it wasn't all flirtation, because he hadn't added the word want and had added an earnest question at the end, "Do you?" "Yes?" The tricky thing about this question is that he knows she wants it, and he wants her to admit it. It was like everything he'd done in the past, using his gentlemanly ways, his thoughtfulness, to dismantle her defenses a little, to coax her into identifying her desires and her feelings. But when she was sure, he was still slow to show his cards. He asks if she misses him. And what about him? And did he miss her, and did he care? "If I say I miss you, will you come over?" The two places were nearly 1,000 kilometers apart, and even if the plane went back and forth, half a day would be consumed just in transit. Chapter 24. "Will you come over and spend the weekend with me?" she asked rhetorically, even taking on a sappy tone. The man on the other end of the line was silent, half-heartedly. "Do you want me to come over?" Sure enough, it was this kind of vague answer, the usual trick of men, throwing the question at the other party, trying to make the other party notice his own irrationality first, and thus give up. If it was in the past, Yuan smiled, and the matter was revealed. But this time, Yuan nodded, "Aha." Once upon a time, when he was on a long trip, she had also felt the urge to go see him during her free vacation. Flying from one city to another to see him and ease her longing. She knew if she asked, odds were he would cover all the expenses and even treat her thoughtfully to an okay vacation or trip. But they weren't a couple, after all, and if traveling for, say, a boat trip to see his other half was still considered romantic, for a fuck buddy it was a little on the cheap side. "I want you to come over," Yuan said. The desire was real. The temptation was also real. A man like Gao Yan might be considerate of her simply because of his upbringing. He paid money because he wasn't short of it, and even the ambiguous words he was saying to her might just be out of boredom, but what if he were to add a trip to a weekend that he didn't have much free time? Once upon a time, when she had bumped into his breakup, when she had heard her ex-girlfriend's accusations that he had done his part but was always missing a bit of initiative and interest, she hadn't been able to empathize with him, and had even felt that the other person was more or less capricious. But now, suddenly, she understood that feeling. It was that kind of unwillingness, when it was obvious that you were already sinking, but the other person seemed to be able to pull out at any moment. "Will you come over here?" The sourness brought on by unrequited love gave Yu Huan a rare capricious backing. She wasn't Gao Yan's girlfriend, she couldn't take a condition like breaking up as blackmail. He must think she's crazy, right? Then it's just as well, she can also use this to kill all the self-righteous thoughts. In the next time, only the flesh out to enjoy until she found another, can meet her physical needs and emotional needs of intimacy at the same time. Yu Huan thought so. But her heart unconsciously sank a little in the other's long silence. Go to sleep, good night. Finally, she said. She still overestimated herself. Tossing and turning all night, Yu Huan didn't sleep very well. In the meeting the next day, she still played her perfect professionalism. When it was finally over and the report was sorted out, Yu Huan closed the computer, rubbed her temples with a headache, and said with Xin Yilan, "Go eat by yourself, I want to go back and rest for a while first." Good. Xin Yilan nodded, looking at her tiredness. "I'll help you pack dinner." "No need, I'll wake up from my nap later and just eat casually at the hotel." "Oh, good." The two of them split up. Yu Huan returned to the hotel room, simply took a shower and went to bed. In her drowsiness, the alert tone of her cell phone receiving a message sounded several times, but she ignored it until the phone rang persistently as well. Only then did she feel out her cell phone from under her pillow. The caller was Gao Yan. The few missed messages were from him as well, namely, "I'm here. Location sharing. Where are you?" And the last sentence, "Open the door." Yu Huan almost got up from the bed at once, looking at the person in front of her, full of unbelief. "How are you here? How do you know I live here?" Before the words were finished, she closed her voice. The person was called by herself. As for how he found this place, with Xin Yilan around, what couldn't he find? Chapter 26, Indulgence. "You really came? How? Didn't you say anything yesterday?" Welcoming the person through the door, Yu Huan was still in a somewhat uncertain trance, as if he was still in a dream. "I'm also afraid that I won't be able to make it in time." Gao Yan backhandedly closed the door. "I'll tell you when I want to be sure." His tone was flat, but his eyes were soft, and a little tired and helpless, like he was indulging her perverse capriciousness. For a moment, Yu Huan suddenly didn't want to count for anything. Yu Huan took the initiative to hook onto Gao Yan's neck, making him lower down and kiss herself. It was a passionate and urgent kiss. More passionate than any previous kiss. She left the reluctance of her crush behind. She kissed with such fascination that even the air around her seemed to be heating up uncontrollably. Gao Yan was stunned for a moment, then dropped his suitcase and hugged her back, bringing her towards the wall. In this scene, both of them were slightly out of control. "Come to pamper yourself again at this moment?" Gao Yan backed away a bit and stared at her with a burning gaze. "Didn't you say you missed me a lot?" Yu Huan didn't answer, only leaning in to kiss him, her warm lips touching his forehead, eyelids, tip of his nose, and cheeks, finally pressing against his lips and rubbing them intimately. That lingering, passionate. He gritted his teeth, and finally softened his heart, and carried her to the bed. Afterwards, Yu Huan's head rested on the edge of the bathtub, with a towel under her neck, the whole person breathlessly soaked in the water, like a blooming flower, wet and soft, at the mercy of others. Gao Yan stood rinsing under the shower, water droplets constantly rolling down on his smooth muscles, making Yu Huan couldn't help but think again of that fitness video he posted earlier. "When are you going back?" she asked, trying to divert her attention. "Early morning flight tomorrow." Yu Huan averted her eyes. "So early?" "Uh-huh." The shower gel became cloudy in Gao Yan's hands. He wiped them on his shoulders. "I have a lunch date with a collaborator at noon." Oh, Yu Huan was speechless, suddenly not knowing what to say. Gao Yan turned his head. "Can you say it now?" "Why?" "What why? Why are you so insistent on wanting me to come over?" Even though Yu Huan didn't say anything on the other end of the phone that day, it was obvious that she was abnormal. "Why?" Gao Yan looked at Yu Huan, waiting for her answer. Yuan finally breathed out, then. Can you answer a question for me first? Good. What kind of relationship are we considered? Chapter 25. Chapter 27 Relationships. What kind of relationship are we now? In the end, Yuan still asked this question. It was not a sensible question. Asking it would only lead to two paths: either they would pick apart the ambiguity and become a couple, or no, they couldn't be strangers, they had work intersections, they could not see each other with their heads down, they could only see each other with their heads up, they could only awkwardly continue to work together. But in this moment, Yuan just asked. It could be that his indulgence gave her courage, or it could be because she was tired of his long-standing iffy behavior. How do you want me to answer? After a long time, she heard him ask back. Why did he throw the question at her every time? Surely she wanted a serious relationship, not just a physical connection. She wanted that title, the title of girlfriend. To be able to hold hands with him in public, to hear him say, "This is my girlfriend," to go on dates with him, to celebrate every Valentine's Day. The moment the question came out of her mouth, her mind was already clear. Didn't he understand? Why did he have to make her ask? Or at this point, he was still going to use words like, "So what if I'm a girlfriend, it's just a title, without it, we can still do more intimate things," to avoid it. Silence is embarrassing. Yuan pursed her lips, breathing rapidly, her eyes suddenly a little wet. The moment of stolen joy at seeing him earlier was just like the bubbles rubbed up on his body, dissipating at the slightest touch. Good. Ryoko turned her head sideways, no longer meeting his eyes. She got up from the tub, ignoring the fact that she was soaking wet, wrapped in a towel, and strutted out the door. She walked so fast that she almost slipped, and Gao Yan reached out to help her, pulling her along with him only to realize when she looked back that she was once again pulled into his arms. Warm breath brushed against her face. She clearly heard him sigh, then spoke in a somewhat helpless tone, "What do you know? Why are you so distrustful of me even now? What do you think I came all this way for?" He asked in a low voice, his shoulders lowered to meet his eyes as if he was a little tired. But Yuan wanted to say something else, and in the next second, his chin was clasped. This kiss and the previous kiss had some differences. It was as if it was entwined with soft sentiments, tenderness, cherishing, compassion, possession. Of all sorts of moods were trying to pass between the lips and tongue. Yuan unconsciously climbed onto Gao Yan's back in response. When he releases her again, she hears his low, magnetic voice, accompanied by the airflow of his breath. "Know how I felt that day in the hotel, when you asked if I would attend your wedding? The way I felt, is the way you just felt." He added. "What do you mean?" She blinked, then suddenly responded, you mean you." "Yes." He admitted with certainty, "That's when I thought, I can't let you play dumb like that anymore." "But the one playing dumb is obviously you. Because I've been waiting for you to take the initiative to ask after me, but you've always expressed the appearance of not caring." "I didn't care." Yuan wanted to argue, then remembered that many of the boundaries between them were actually set by her in the beginning. For example, not turning on the lights during intimacy, for fear that those scenes would be remembered too clearly in their minds. For example, not staying overnight, because hugging deepens the attachment to a person, and the same goes for kissing. Such as concise messages each time, for fear of chatting too often and creating the illusion of being in love. She seldom bothered to sort out those chaotic, vague and tangled feelings. She didn't have the courage to open her mouth and tell him that she both longed for him and was terrified that a single step over the line would break their relationship. "So, you're saying that you like me?" Yuan drew an inference. "Uh-huh." Gao Yan nodded his head without adding too many fancy words, only his eyes gazed at her tenderly, as if he was silently conveying his love for their owner. Being gazed at by him like that, Yuan felt her chest gently quivering as a bubble of pleasure began to rise again. But at the same time, she was surprised. When did it start? Chapter 28, An Old Affair. The year of Gao Yan's first year of high school, Gao Cheng and Yan Yuhua got divorced again. The reason was very old-fashioned. It was Gao Cheng's mistress outside that caused trouble at home. This is not the first time that Gao Cheng has had a woman outside of his home since Gao Banquet can remember. The difference is that some of them have kept their jobs and some have been greedy and insufficient. Dao Lan grew up in that environment, like a detective proficient in a variety of detection, pretend to sell milk, send newspapers door to door with people to talk, and the same target figure colleagues and neighbors to mix well, to listen to gossip, by Gao Cheng's driver set of material. Any woman in F City, as long as Gao Lan knows and Gao Cheng has a leg, not a month, the bottom details are absolutely Gao Lan picked clearly. But what's the use? Yan Yuhua didn't care at all. Before Yan Yuhua was diagnosed with cancer, she was a strong woman with no weaknesses at all. As long as Gao Cheng didn't give her any trouble in business, she didn't care if he had someone outside or not. Even as long as the third party does not provoke the door, she can still calmly smile at people. Gao Cheng has complained about Yan Yuhua countless times when he is drunk, saying that she is just an empty pillow, looking pretty and soft on the outside, but in fact, she has not given him any warmth. Whenever this happens, Yan Yuhua sneers, "Your mistresses are all solid, so you go to them all?" Gao Cheng suddenly stopped talking. Yes, and outsiders imagine different. The Gao family has always wanted a divorce as Yan Yuhua, and Abai does not divorced Gao Cheng. There are a lot of mistresses out there, but Gao Cheng has never thought of divorce, as if as long as he keeps Yan Yuhua, he is barely a successful career and family man, and mistresses can be changed every now and then. The two men, one without distraction to focus on business, a decade as one day to womanize. Gao Yan sometimes wondered if they had ever really loved each other. If they didn't love each other, how did they survive those difficult years and support each other to build up their business little by little? Chapter 26. But love each other, and how they will evolve to the back, the kind of mutual indifference, look at each other too bored, under the same roof open mouth is the Ming Dynasty dark irony of the point. In short, home is not a cozy place, school is okay, a holiday is simply a disaster. Dao Lan is definitely coming back home. She talks a good game, saying that her parents don't get along, and that she, as an older sister, wants to give him more warmth. In reality, she has learned the skill of slaying dragons, but suffers from being married to a good husband. With 20 filial piety, and has no place to put it to use, so even though she herself has a family, she still spares no effort in variously detecting Gao Cheng's mistress and sharing the results with him when he catches a chance. When Gao Lan came, Shen Yilan was bound to follow. He grew up in a family where the woman was on the strong side and learned to be well-behaved, like a girl, polite and understanding. But the downside is that he is also well-behaved, delicate, and cowering in everything he does, completely lacking the skin of a boy, plus. He also inherited the fucking gossip, and likes to stick to people like a follower. Gao Yan feels tired every time he brings him along. In addition to Gao Lan and Shen Yilan, Grandma and Grandpa also had to come, saying something about the high school stage being critical, fearing that if he had a little bit of a bad time, it would affect his college entrance exams. In the meantime, if Gao Cheng and Yan Yuhua came back to have a fight, or Gao Cheng's mistress came to their doorsteps, the degree of bloodshed is comparable to that of a TV drama. Just thinking about it is enough to give Gao Banquet a headache. On holidays, Dao Yan can ask friends to ask friends, cannot ask friends to use study as an excuse to hide in the school to enjoy the clean. Outside the school library there is a lotus pond next to a pavilion, in the summer lush greenery under the cover of extra quiet. One day, Gao Banquet in the home and watched a big play, annoyed to escape to school, see the gazebo for no one, so directly lying there to sleep for the afternoon. When he woke up, he heard someone reading by the lake. That person was none other than Yu Huan. Gao Banquet from the math teacher's office to see Yu Huan, skinny and weak a girl, but the math is exceptionally powerful. Sometimes the math teacher's own thinking short-circuit, cannot solve the problem, let Yu Huan first to do. Dao Yan had also seen Yu Huan helping the math teacher correct her homework, and the math teacher was chanting about her, asking her to work harder. because the school scholarships are only given to the top 8 students in the grade, and Yu Huan, unfortunately, happens to be the ninth. It was probably her bad luck that impressed him so much that he stood in the doorway and instantly remembered her name. When Gao Yan met Yu Huan by the lotus pond, she was sitting on a rock next to the pond with a selection of beautiful English essays in her hand. Her teacher said that her poor English was the key to not getting a scholarship, so she was dead set against English. Her English pronunciation was slightly substandard, and her accent was heavy, but she read with great emotion. Gao Yan ghostly sat in the gazebo and silently listened to her read 2 pieces, and instead of feeling bad, he felt an inexplicable sense of joy. Like listening to a comic opera. Those things that annoyed him also temporarily disappeared from his mind. Gao Yan later liked to go to the gazebo when he had nothing to do. Yu Huan's English went from being raw and awkward and comical in the beginning, to becoming standard and fluent under her conscious corrections. Either way, it made him forget about all the agitation and worries for a while. He listened to more and more, and gradually developed a favorable impression of her, as if she were a friend he had known for a long time. Especially after sending her home in the rainstorm, he learned from his math teacher that she was staying at her uncle's house, which had 2 children. He learned that she was a friend of his and that she was a friend of his. He even found a bit of empathy in her behavior of staying at school every weekend as he did. But he never reached out to her to talk. Talk about what? Barring certain commonalities, they were essentially different types of people. Their pursuits are different pursuits, their troubles are different troubles. If he had told her that he was troubled, she might have said that he was full of trouble. He then never thought to break anything until that love letter. It was unsigned, but he recognized her handwriting. He was sure she had written it, not only because of her handwriting, but also because he had witnessed her creating her by the pond. She was by the pond. Your Borges poem. With what can I keep you? I'll give you the thin streets, the despairing sunsets, the moons in the wilderness. I give you the sadness of a man who looks longingly at the lonely moon. Compared to her slightly comical English, her Chinese was well spoken, and with her cool timbre, there was a kind of inexplicable magic, as if she could bring people into a certain mood at once. That day, he listened to her read countless love poems, kitsch, passionate, chic, lofty. Just as he was wondering how someone like her could suddenly be flushed with nymphomania, as he was wondering which boy was so powerful that he could make her rack her brain to express her love, he received a love letter from her. Chapter 29. Unhappy. How could she write him a love letter? They hadn't even spoken a few words. But what if she's just like those girls who know how to be horny and admire lesser love? After the rainstorm incident, in some public places, he clearly felt that her eyes would stop on him too. What if she was also interested in him? At that time, Gao Yan was in his 2nd year of high school. Yan Yuhua was diagnosed with cancer. The family business had to count more on Gao Qing and the Gao Lan couple, who had originally planned to leave the country as soon as Gao Yan passed the university entrance exams, had to shelve their immigration plans once again. New conflicts arise in both families. As the days go by, Gao Banquet doesn't even think about falling in love. But if Yu Huan is really interested in him, he thinks that even if he wants to refuse, he should try to use a softer way to make things clear. How to say it? Gao Yan, who has always been experienced in this area, was actually also a little difficult. And what he never expected was that when he went to the appointment according to the place given on the love letter full of tangles, he met the new transfer student. You wrote the love letter? While breathing a sigh of relief, there was actually an indescribable, hidden loss in his heart. Yeah. The other party admitted somewhat sheepishly. Chapter 27. Really, very well written, he said, then a burst of praise. The other party became more and more embarrassed, and finally confessed, the love letter was written by someone else. But the heart is real. She emphasized again, carefully watching his expression, you didn't just come to see me because the love letter was well written, did you? What if I said yes? Huh. The other man was a little stunned, and sighed after a long while, then buy me dinner, and I'll tell you who really wrote it. That girl, although she had found a substitute pen, but it was better than honesty. Gao Banquet invited her to dinner, and when he asked in the conversation that the payment was only a week's living expenses, he realized for the first time in his life what it meant to be unable to cry or laugh. Because of the act of inviting girls to dinner, Gao Yan received more and more love letters. It seemed that everyone had a second-best attitude. Even if they couldn't catch him, it was still good to have a meal together. During that time, even if Gao Yan didn't open his mailbox, didn't clean out his drawers, and completely ignored those letters, there would be people who would specifically stop him on the road to send love letters or confess on the spot. After a long time, Gao Yan also found it troublesome. If you can't stand it, I'll tell you two ways: either you find a girl who confesses, humiliate her severely and make an example of her, or find a girlfriend among those who confess to you and let her help you block peach blossoms. His friends saw the situation, and came up with a bad idea. Gao Banquet, of course, did not adopt. Although he didn't consider himself to be of noble character, he would never do something like that to trample on a person's heart. Until Lin Su showed him favor. Lin Su was Yu Huan's classmate after the division and also Yu Huan's friend. When Gao Yan first noticed Lin Su, it was purely out of curiosity, curious about what kind of people Yu Huan would make friends with, given her solitary nature. It was only after observing for some time that he realized that it was Lin Su who took the initiative to befriend Yu Huan. Unlike Yu Huan, Lin Su was the kind of person who was particularly good at getting things done, particularly exquisite. She is white, thin and tall, her facial features in his opinion at most counting to beautiful, but because of the good dress, sweet talking will be pampered, in the grade actually also have a lot of suitors. Tea is tea, but it's not a bad thing for Yu Huan to have a friend with a complimentary personality. Gao Yan had always thought so, until one day, he witnessed Lin Su throwing the pastries Yu Huan gave her into the trash. "Susu, why did you throw away the food that whoever gave you? It's sour, who loves to eat it?" "That's also true. Oh, but I thought you were on good terms with that whoever." "Good? Me and her? Oh, come on, she's so corny, who's on good terms with her? Then why are you so close to her?" "Her grades are good, I don't take the initiative to get closer to her. How can I get her notes and have her help me highlight before the exam?" At that time, Lin Su didn't notice him, and just so recklessly talked about Yu Huan with her friend while passing by him. Gao Yan looked at the pastries in the trash can. That was clearly Yu Huan's favorite, her grandmother's sour date cake. Probably right before she gave the pastry to Lin Su, she was careful to cover it with something for fear that it would get cold and affect the texture of the glutinous rice. Who knew that what she got in return for her sincerity was such trampling? Gao Yan coldly watched Lin Su left, and so on. 2 days later, he was playing basketball, and Lin Su took the water, eagerly looked at him when he walked to her. "There are paper towels?" They say that men take the initiative. In fact, women can also be very active. That day, he but slightly teased a little, behind Lin Su from time to time in front of him to brush the presents, and after he responded twice to take the initiative to find him confession. And he agreed. In retrospect, he was actually not good to Lin Su at all. When you need it, you carry it out as a shield, and when you don't need it, you don't care about it. Lin Su actually noticed that he was not good to her, but she always loved to brag about it with the people around her because of her vanity. There was even a time when he heard him bragging with Yu Huan about how considerate he was. "Is that Yu Huan your friend? I didn't think you had such a friend." So he deliberately said. He didn't actually imply anything, but Lin Su thought he was talking about Yu Huan's soil, saying that Yu Huan was withdrawn and weird. She didn't argue for her friend at all, but instead explained in disgust that she was just a classmate. He just asked, she felt ashamed, and later gradually and Yu Huan distant relationship. In the 3 years of high school, Lin Su was Gao Yan's girlfriend for a year and a half. When she graduated, Lin Su chose a university in a foreign province, and Gao Yan chose the neighboring city's University A because his mother's condition worsened. Lin Su ran to ask him how he did not enroll in the previously agreed upon school, had to be and her long distance, and asked him whether he knew how hard long-distance relationship. He only faintly returned a sentence, then break up. The first time I saw him, I was so happy to see him. Lin Su looked at him, some disbelief. You want to break up with me? Although more than a year, she was not treated well, but she enjoys, to be Gao Yan girlfriend of that vanity and scenery is unique. She enjoyed those vain things, so inevitably, she also invested a certain amount of feelings towards him. Suddenly being broken up, her whole body was confused. Just like that you're going to break up with me? What exactly do you think I am? She asked. What do I take you for? Gao Yan looked at her with amusement. What about those male and female classmates who treated you well? And what do you take their feelings for? What do you mean? What male classmates? Are you jealous? She obviously didn't understand what he was saying. And he didn't explain, just like she did in the beginning. He turned his hand and threw the milk tea she brought him into the trash can aside and walked away. Chapter 30, Reunion. Gao Yan entered the University of A to study architecture, which he had always wanted to study. Yan Yuhua has been recuperating after his surgery to remove pancreatic cancer. His career is waning, and he has begun to focus more on his family, and Gao Qing has also found his conscience and no longer goes out to fool around. During the winter vacation of his freshman year, Gao Yan enjoyed a rare period of peace and tranquility at home. On New Year's Eve, the family reunion together, and beautifully ate a reunion dinner. The next day, Gao banquet with gifts to visit the former high school teachers, to the math teacher's home mouth, a wrapped-down jacket girl just out. Chapter 28. Mr. Jiang, then I'll leave first. The girl's back was turned to Gao Yan, and the familiar voice was none other than Yu Huan. Gao Yan stepped forward, and the other party happened to turn around. The moment the four eyes met, Yu Huan froze slightly, obviously still recognizing him, but did not greet her. Mr. Jiang, good New Year. The student that Gao Yan had asked to go with him, frequently looked in the direction of the corridor, and asked when he entered the room, that girl just now was the original math class representative of class 7? Yes. The teacher nodded, quite a bit emotional, quite a big change, right? I almost didn't recognize her when I entered the room. Gao Yan recalled that glimpse in the aisle. Obviously the 5 features were still the same, but the face was rounded, the skin was whiter, and the whole person's temperament was completely different, as if it had gone from inconspicuous to bright all of a sudden. For the first time, Gao Yan realized that Yu Huan was also quite good-looking. Later years, Gao Banquet will go to his math teacher's house to celebrate New Year's Eve as long as he is in F City, but he has never met Yu Huan again. Until the second year after graduating from college, he went to his math teacher's house to pay his respects as usual, and the teacher had a relative's child who also wanted to take the law major. Gao Yan saw the teacher flip out Yu Huan's phone number from the address book and called the past. Hey, Yu Huan ah. I'm Mr. Jiang. New Year good, New Year good. Spending the New Year in the capital again this year ah? Is it? All intend to settle there ah. Is over there to find an object? Egu, are you getting married? Congratulations ah. The math teacher exchanged pleasantries for a while, before handing the phone to the relative's child for her own counseling. And it is in the math teacher pleasantries, Gao Yan learned about Yu Huan's situation, passed the law exam, entered the red circle, made a boyfriend, ready to get married and settled in the capital. Seems to be doing quite well. Who would have thought that after another 2 years, Gao Yan met Yu Huan again at the Zhongyou law firm. Gao Yan looked at the person standing at the door. The other party dressed professionally, sharp black coat, inside is a shirt and suit skirt, scarf covers her white long neck, black hair coiled at the back, plus a pair of glasses. The whole person looks competent, dignified. The whole person looked competent and dignified. She was a different person from the skinny girl in her memory. Mr. Gao, Fred is already downstairs and will be up soon. You have a cup of coffee first. She knocked on the door and put the coffee in his hand. The voice was still that familiar voice, but with more mature flavor. The sunny daylight fell in before the window, and she smiled politely at him, eyes still clear after 6 or 7 years of separation, only they had also learned not to move. He then had no way of judging by that gaze anymore whether she remembered him or not. "Thanks," he returned. "You're welcome," she said, then turned and carefully closed the door behind her. He watched her departing back through the glass door. She was prettier than when he'd seen her during winter break of his freshman year, and her figure was better too: flat shoulders, diminutive breasts, waist, hips, and yes, long, well-proportioned legs. Even with her heavy winter clothes, it was hard to hide her superior proportions, her upright figure. "That's our law firm's new colleague, just resigned from a well-known law firm in the capital and came back, unmarried." Out of focus, Fred has already come, smiling cynically, looking at him, as if asking, "Fancy someone else?" Gao Yan then turned his eyes back. "Let's get down to business." After an hour, Gao Yan and Fred finished talking about business. Fred sent him to the elevator, and when he passed by the washroom, Gao Banquet bumped into Yu Huan again. She was being stuffed with a skirt by Carrie and was asked to hurry up and change into it, saying that she had to meet a client in the evening. Carrie is also the old staff of Zhongyou. Professional ability is not strong, but good at maintaining a variety of customer relations. Is Zhongyou's social flower at the dinner table, meat and vegetable paragraphs at your fingertips, drinking is not a problem. Gao Yan glanced at the skirt in Yu Huan's hand and realized what was going on, frowning and turning to Fred. "You let Carrie take her? A graduate of a prestigious school who has worked at Red Circle, you let her socialize with Carrie, don't you think it's a waste?" he asked. "The economy is going down, there's no way around it, we have to eat too." Fred rubbed his nose, also a little embarrassed, and looked at him again. "Eh? Remember I just said she came back from a famous law firm in the capital. How do you know it's Red Circle? And also know that people graduated from famous schools? We are high school classmates." Gao Yan could only admit it. "Oh. Old classmates, ah?" Fred looked at him meaningfully. "Want me to help take care of it?" Gao Banquet did not answer, and waited for Fred to send him to the elevator entrance before turning to look at him. "If you are free on Sunday afternoon, you can go to Meilon to play 2 games of golf." On Sunday, Gao Banquet accompanied a few fellow big bosses to play golf at Meilon, and Fred happened to be there, so Gao Banquet pulled him along and introduced him to the bosses. New cases were soon opened up by Fred. Fred is also very smart. He did not let Yu Huan and Carrie to socialize, but personally brought up her. Chapter 31, Recognizing. Any case that Le Shang had was followed by Fred personally. Since Fred personally brought Yu Huan, inevitably, Gao Yan bumped into Yu Huan more and more often. Yu Huan would smile and greet him every time she saw him, but it was only limited to greetings. He had a girlfriend, and she soon had a new boyfriend as well. The two shouldn't have, and there wasn't much likelihood of the two having any interactions outside of business, until he overheard Yu Huan on the phone with a friend while he was at the hot springs. He said it was a blind date introduced by his family. In addition, "I'm quite diaphragmatic, but I'm also at fault for this relationship." Cliched cheating story, favoring Yu Huan still feel that he has a problem. Gao Yan leaned back against the pool wall and frowned. What is her fault? What's wrong with her? He shouldn't have been nosy, but the more he listened, the more he felt that the other party was outrageous. That day, he didn't hold back and opened his mouth to remind Yu Huan to check her boyfriend's cell phone. Know how to check cell phones? Friend circle message list, cell phone navigation address bar, hotel and takeout orders. Student days or not, business world or not, men who don't cheat are in the end a minority. Gao Yan had seen a lot, plus Gao Lan's detective skills were updated and iterative. He could be too familiar with how to check a man's cell phone. He suddenly made a sound. Yu Huan felt embarrassed, silent, hurried away. Chapter 29. Gao Banquet that night, however, had a dream, an aphrodisiac dream. In the dream, Yu Huan was soaking in a hot spring, her naked body pressed against him, snuggling in his arms and reading him poetry. The hot spring water was slippery and warm, and her voice was as cool as it had been years ago by the lotus pond, with a bit more of the flirtatiousness and gentleness of adulthood. Most of the time the attraction between a man and a woman begins in the flesh. This is really true. Gao Yan has known Yu Huan for so many years, and has never thought of her as an old friend that he doesn't talk to much, and has never had any evil thoughts. But ever since he met her by chance in the hot spring pool, he always unconsciously remembered how she looked when she was soaking in the hot spring, smoky red face, porcelain smooth skin. He was surprised to find that he actually had lust for her. And what's even more outrageous is that later on when she thanked him, when she tilted her head drunkenly and asked, "What about you, what kind are you?" When she drunkenly tilted her head and asked, "What about you, what kind are you?" He stared at those crimson lips and, unable to hold back, leaned in for a kiss. His self-control shouldn't have been like this. But he'd already kissed them, and backing away couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. He simply threw himself into it and enjoyed it. I thought she'd asked him what kind. So he deliberately kissed sensationally and teasingly, and when he'd kissed enough, he flirtatiously added a scumbag classic, "A room?" He hoped that she would just take it as a joke that he was drunk. However, Yu Huan nodded, "Good." Gao Yan immediately froze. He looked at Yu Huan. At that moment, his reason clearly knew that he should push her away, but his lips remained pursed, just not wanting to cooperate, not wanting to open his mouth to say any words of refusal. Like she was fighting him, she didn't say anything back, and the two of them just went all the way to the hotel. Into the room, glancing at the box of birth control supplies, he began to reflect on his own impulsiveness. Excuse, "I first take a shower." But even so, she still did not go, and then the matter, it is not his reason can control. Black light space, intertwined body, hot breath. He looked at the person sleeping on the side of the pillow, and thought to himself, "Or let's go out." Although this beginning of theirs was a bit ridiculous, but no, also studies have shown that a ridiculous beginning must not end well. Though he didn't think he had much affection for her, more of an impulsive desire and a familiarity that had built up in his heart, it didn't matter what. He hadn't had much affection with her previous ones either. He was willing to have a serious relationship with her if she needed him to be responsible. He thought in a daze between chaotic sleep and inexplicable excitement. When he opened his eyes again, however, his pillow was empty. No note, no message, she hadn't even called out to him to say goodbye, she was just gone. He bumped into her again in the elevator stall at Chengyu Law Firm, and she was clearly distant, not needing him to be responsible. Forget it, then, he thought. Not to say it was a loss, but inevitably, a slight pity. It was as if he'd managed to discover a delicacy and had just let go of a bite when it was served. Maybe men are inferior, for the women they have slept with, there is always a kind of inexplicable possessiveness. Later when he learned that his sales department's employee was hitting on Yu Huan, Gao Yan couldn't help but be nosy once again. He reminds Yu Huan that Tangan is not a good thing. Yu Huan, however, is not surprised and laughs, saying that she's just killing time. Passing time? She's had poor knowledge of people in high school, and her ex-boyfriend cheated on her. It's not that he thinks she's stupid, she's just too simple and not ruthless enough at the same time. If she had to kill time, Gao Yan thought, then she might as well go to him. At least he had a sense of proportion. At least one day when she wanted to get serious, he could be responsible. Gao Yan had never been considered prudent when it came to relationships. His first love in high school was a joke. Then he met Liang Shiyun in college, and the other person's déjà vu coolness and concentration had given him a good feeling, so he pursued her. Then came Ling Fei, his mother liked her, and she was really an excellent person, so he started dating her after a few contacts. It is said that women are unpredictable and their minds are hard to grasp. But perhaps because there was a special Gao Lan in his family, Gao Yan did not have any obstacles in getting along with the opposite sex. He thought he was being considerate and doing his job as a boyfriend, but Ling Fei broke up with him. That was the first time he was really dumped. He didn't feel bad, because he himself couldn't feel his love for Ling Fei, at most, only appreciation and good feelings, as well as to the world's vision of catering to the expectations of loved ones to satisfy just. His parents' marriage, which was full of chicken feathers, had made him grow up with no particular expectations of marriage. In the business world, he has seen too much of the appearance of separation, different beds, and even turned against each other after the enemy, for the relationship is even more and more indifferent. Male and female friends or not. Or a simple physical relationship that would forever link him to Yuhuan seemed fine. Although he knew in his heart, the physical relationship is not solid, but the relationship in this world, there is nothing solid, there is no kind of commitment can be infinitely stretched to forever. If that's the case, why be so attached to it? He thought. Until that day Yuhuan asked him, her wedding, will he come? Her wedding to whom? Even though he knew that she was probably just talking off the top of her head, he still couldn't respond appropriately, and for the first time, he realized that he couldn't accept that kind of scene. Accept her solemnly exchanging vows with another man in a white wedding dress. Accepting that she was hand in hand with another man, having children. Chapter 32 Peace of Mind. When did you like her? Feelings of this kind of thing is not out of thin air, to let Gao Yan said, that must be really countless intertwined indulgence, ear to ear night a little accumulated. It was the first time he left her house, returned to the empty residence, glanced at the empty room, felt that something was missing. It was the first time he'd held her and entertained the thought of simply cuddling her and talking to her for a while. And then again, it could have been earlier, the first time he kissed her lips, the first time he saw her bare shoulders, the first time he felt bad about her heart being trampled on, the first time he heard her recite a poem. Chapter 30. It's just that he didn't realize it. Gao Yan sat down on the edge of the bathtub and looked at Yuhuan. You want to know? Yuhuan. Come here. He spreads his legs and gestures for her to sit on it. Yuhuan pasted over. Gao Yan pulls her to sit on his lap, but only says, the story is long, I'll tell it slowly later. Saying this, he pulled over her jaw and kissed her again. Well. She still wanted to pursue again. He had already borrowed the gap between his lips and teeth, and blocked her voice with a hot kiss. After taking a shower, Yuhuan casually wiped her hair with a towel, wrapped in her robe, and used a spoon to scoop up the congee to eat in small bites. Gao Yan sat on the sofa aside, his body leaning back against the back of the chair, flipping through the tablet that his secretary had sent him, about the contract he was going to sign tomorrow. He had put on his glasses, the square lenses with gold frames, and his whole aura became introverted and cold. The way he worked seriously made him look more attractive than usual. Yuhuan seldom had such a quiet moment watching him work. She can't help but quietly glance at him, at the ears under his sideburns, at the elegant movements of his fingers when he pushes his glasses, and at his long and skeletal hands. He notices her gaze and slightly looks away. Do you still want to work tomorrow? Yuhuan heard the implication in his words and hastily twisted her head away. Right at this moment, a knock on the door rang out with a thud, accompanied by Shen Yilan's voice. Counselor Yu, are you feeling better? I brought you a midnight snack, do you want to have some? A midnight snack? Where else could she eat a midnight snack? Yuhuan raised her head to look at Gao Yan and spoke in a small voice. Did you tell him that you're here? No. Gao Yan shook his head. He was still unclear about the situation when he arrived, so of course he couldn't do anything inappropriate that would cause people to speculate. But now. That's not how he knows. Gao Yan said. He said and stood up, making a gesture to open the door. By the looks of it, he was planning to have a showdown with Shen Yilan. But Yuhuan wasn't ready yet. Her business trip was to come to the office. If Shen Yilan saw his uncle appearing in her room, what would he think of her? Besides, Shen Yilan's temperament, if he knew about it, it would be the same as the whole office knowing. Thinking of this, Yuhuan jumped up in a single bound, stopping Gao Yan, who opened the door and pulling him towards the bathroom. Yilan, why did you come over? Shutting the bathroom door behind her, Yuan then carefully opened the door a crack. I heard a sound from your side and guessed that you should have woken up from your nap. Shin Yilan said, carrying the bag in his hand. I ate the lotus leaf duck over here at night. It was quite tasty, so I packed half of it for you. Try it? He said and was about to hand her the box, but inadvertently glanced at a table of food on the coffee table. Yuan hurriedly sidestepped to block his line of sight, fearing that he would see that there were 2 pairs of bowls and chopsticks. Accepting the box, she said, "Thank you, I just had dinner, and this duck of yours, I'll try it later." Sending Shin Yilan away, Yuan tossed the packing box aside and hurried to the bathroom to open the door. He's gone. She rushed at the person inside. The other party, however, turned to look at her. What kind of relationship are we now? Was this teasing her with her words? Is this even getting angry? Yuan. But on second thought, if she flew thousands of miles on a long journey to meet him, only to be stuffed in the toilet by him, she might not just be angry as simple as that. Chapter 33 Difficult to Coax. Angry? Yuan asked carefully. Gao Yan didn't answer. I just don't think it's good to pick this time now. Yuan explained, you also know that Yilan's nature, if it spreads out and lets his colleagues know about it, the impact is not good. Not good for you. She thought about it and tilted her head to add another sentence, using a somewhat petulant tone. In the past, due to the relationship between the two of them, she couldn't be pampered to him. Only when she was done hard in bed, she begged for mercy and grunted twice, went to grab his arm in passing, pretended to be unconscious, and slid into his palm, and when he grabbed her hand hard and unconsciously, she then aggrievedly shouted out in pain with him. But this moment is different. At this moment they have already confessed their feelings to each other. He is standing here, she can openly and honestly with him to be pampered. Something called love fermented in her heart. Yuan walked over and hugged him, sticking to his arms like a cat, and began her small movements. First, she tugged at the corner of his shirt. Doesn't take the edge off? Then hooked the palm of his hand again. Still not angry? Rub her cheek against his chest. Is that not enough? Then don't blame her for kissing him. Yuan's fingers lightly touched Gao Yan's palm, rubbing on his palm slowly downward, sliding in a little bit to interlock with his fingers. When she was enough to kiss her feet, she tilted her head to look at him. Her large eyes stared at him without blinking. Her already bright eyes seemed to shake with watery light. Who taught her all this? Gao Yan glanced down at her, and finally reached out his arm to hold her waist, reversing his position and kissing her lips again. Waiting in the lounge to board the plane, Yuan sank into the sofa chair like a koala, not wanting to move a muscle. She pulled the soft cushion on the sofa over to cushion behind her. Next to her, Shin Yilan was still puzzling over the air ticket. How come it was economy class when I came here, but changed to business class when I went back? Yuan didn't answer, only last night's scene was still playing slowly in his head. Yesterday after Shin Yilan left, she was pulled by Gao Yan. Originally, in the bathroom she had almost coaxed the man, and at first he was quite gentle. But not a moment later, Shin Yilan came knocking on the door again, asking her what knot she had tied for him last time, saying that he had forgotten again. Then, when she managed to get rid of the person through the door, Gao Yan had another attack. As if deliberately torturing her, he asked her if she liked it, and if she liked it, why didn't she make a sound? The soundproofing of the hotel wasn't good, and her bedroom was right next to Shin Yilan's side of the bedroom. Sometimes she could hear things falling to the ground next door. How could she dare to make a sound? She could only bite the quilt and use all her mixed strength to hope that he would end it earlier,